What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Knicks with my friend and co-host Dylan Backer, and the Knicks are playing what is a pretty big game for them. Yes, the Houston Rockets are a team that you would consider easy to beat, but that doesn't make this game not important. You know, the Knicks know they have to win tonight. The Knicks are in control of their own destiny when it comes to the fifth seed. They're 2 games up in the loss column on the Heat and the Nets. At this point, if you just keep winning games you're supposed to win, even if you drop that game to Miami, you kind of squeeze them out of having enough time to catch up to you. I think you can agree with me here in the sense that this is a huge game. Jalen Brunson's injury news, we have an update there, and we're going to get into all of that, previewing tonight's matchup, talking about Jalen Brunson's health. But before we can get into any of that, Dylan, how you doing today, my friend? I know you got something special you want to talk about.
Yes, so before we start, shout out Florida Atlantic. My Owls are going to the Final Four. As a student, that's amazing to witness, but that's a story for another time. Let's just drop right into the Knicks. So, big game against the Rockets. I mean, that's a phrase you didn't think you'd be hearing, but it's a big game. The Rockets are, they have the second worst record in the NBA, but you kind of need to win this game. It's a big game because, Knicks have been sliding lately, 3 straight losses. They've taken losses to the Timberwolves and Magic, 2 teams that are under 500. They've been losing games that you feel like they should win. I know they didn't have Jalen Brunson against Orlando, but you still felt like they should have, had the enough firepower to win the game, right? They didn't win the game. They did come back down big, which was encouraging again, but again, they fell short once again. So, they got to finish that. They got to win these games. And this game is a game right here that you feel like you need to okay, we need to win this game. We need to really show out. We need to prove that we're actually worth being in the playoffs because, lately they've really, really struggled with guarding shooters. They've been late on closeouts. They're just leaving shooters wide open. Teams are having their hottest shooting nights against us now. And we can't let the Houston Rockets, who are literally last in the NBA in three-point percentage, shooting just 32% from that spot, to do that again. If you let that happen again, then I think that's a reason to be concerned about the playoffs, really, because, I mean, it can be a bad stretch, yes, but at the same time, this playoffs are right around the corner. The playoffs are about maybe a good 2-3 weeks away. It is not that far away from us. So, we need, and right now the fifth seed's not exactly secured. It's our fifth seed to lose, but we haven't clinched it. We're 2 games up on Brooklyn and Miami, which is good. Brooklyn and Miami, I think, played the other night, and Brooklyn won, which was good for us because Miami was originally ahead of them. So that was good. We have another huge game against Miami this upcoming Wednesday. That's a huge game. That'll be a game that'll kind of determine if the Knicks will finish in the fifth seed or not. If the Knicks come out on top tonight and then they can come out on top on Wednesday, then it would take something catastrophic really for us to lose that fifth seed, to be quite honest with you. Down the final stretch here, they have a relatively easy schedule. They have Houston, then they have Miami and Cleveland this week, and then they finish out the season with 2 games against the Pacers and then the Wizards and I think the Pelicans. I think that's how they wrap up the season. That's a relatively easy way to finish, right? And a lot of these games are at home as well. And I think 5 of these games are at home. So you feel like you have to finish out strong here, and it starts really right here. They just had 3 straight days off after the 3-game losing streak, so they're able to get their guys rested. Jalen Brunson was able to get a little healthier. He had the sprained right hand. He missed the last game. He went through practice yesterday, which is huge, so maybe he could return tonight. We still don't have any word if he's going to. Right now he's listed as questionable, but there's a strong chance we could see him back on the floor tonight, which is huge. We need him down the stretch, and we need him to be healthy, and we need him to be able to win these games and secure that 5th spot. So looking at that, just, they need to have a big game tonight, plain and simple. It's Houston Rockets. It's a team you really should not lose to. Team has 18 wins this season. I mean, you really should not lose to them. I know, sometimes teams will just have a hot night, but you cannot lose to the Magic and the Rockets back to back. You can't do that. If you do that, that's a cause for concern. You can't do that. You have to show okay, we deserve to be in the playoffs. This is why. I know it's the Rockets, but get a big blowout win or something. Don't make this game close. Get a big blowout win. Play good defense. Shoot the ball well. Do all the things that you were doing during the win streak. Because when you do those things, it leads to wins, right? So get a big win tonight against Houston. That's a big thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't, dude. The way I look at it is, the New York Knicks are playing a Houston team where their two leading scorers are guys that you would consider inefficient scorers. Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. have really struggled with their efficiency all season. Neither of them are guys you're necessarily concerned about in terms of, putting up efficient stat lines. So, you feel like you should be able to play strong defense against these guys. You should be able, to force them into taking tough shots and making poor shot selection decisions. If you're able to do that, this team's clearly the better offense. Talking about the Knicks, of course. We're clearly the better offense. We're clearly the better defense. It's just about letting your talent, shine. You're the more talented team. Play like it. You know what I mean? This isn't even like the Magic, where the Magic, you can at least say they're surging lately. They've been above 500 in their last, I think it's like 30 or 40 games played or something like that. The Houston Rockets are downright atrocious, right? This is not a team that's found its consistency. It's found its stride. There's no excuse for you to go out there and lay an egg. And a big part of what the Knicks are going to do tonight is, Jalen Brunson, right? Jalen Brunson, if he went through practice, you feel confident that he's going to be able to play. And if he plays, man, you're going to be able to take advantage of their guard situation. You're going to be able to take advantage of their poor defense. You're going to be able to take advantage of a young team that really hasn't found its identity yet. I really look at Jalen Brunson. I've said this with Manuel Quickly before. I've said this, about Quentin Grimes before, who's looked a lot better from three. I feel like this is the Jalen Brunson game. Not like the best game he's had all year because he's had some stellar performances. But I feel like tonight's a night for him to go out there and give me 30-plus points. You know what I mean? And as you said, blow them out. I'm not even saying 40 because he'll have, get me 30 and then I want to know that he didn't play the fourth quarter basically because I want to beat the crap out of this team. This team needs something like that. I feel like this team just needs a blowout. I think you're 100% right about that. But, going into tonight's matchup, who do you think is that key guy? I think it's Brunson, but maybe you have a different guy in mind.
No, I agree it's Brunson, and if Brunson doesn't play, I'm going to kind of pivot here just in case he doesn't play since it's not a guarantee. But if he doesn't play, it's Julius Randle. He's had a kind of a bit of a rough week. The play has been kind of meh, not great, and he's gotten 2 techs this week. He got into it with Emmanuel Quickly against the Magic. And the second half was kind of just desolate for him. So I think it's him. He needs to have a big game, and he needs to have a game where he feels calm, composed, and just ready to just do his job. Score, rebound, do the things that he's been doing all year that got him back to the All-Star game, and quite frankly, will get him back on the All-NBA team when it's all said and done. Do those things. He's the guy to watch for. Obviously, like I said, it would be Brunson, but in case he doesn't play, you got to watch for Julius Randle. He's the guy that you got to keep your eyes on all night long to see how he performs. Because if he can perform well and bounce back after, a rough week that was filled with kind of, a lot of frustration, a lot of emotions, if he could bounce back big, have a big game, in a game that can help the Knicks win, that would be huge. It would be huge because it will show his resilience as a person. The team itself has shown its resilience already, but it'll show his resilience as a person. He's able to, bounce back out of this. He's able to come out of the adversity hole. He's able to come out of that frustration. Because last year, when he'd have these frustration bouts, it was tough for him to get out of them, right? He kind of just lingered over it for months or weeks at a time, right? And the poor play kind of just continued, right? He'd have a good game here and there, but, you never really saw a consistent Randle. This year we've seen a consistent Randle because he's toned it down a little bit. Lately he started to revert back. We don't want that. We need him to kind of, get his mind right, relax a little bit, and understand it's a passion of winning, and I love that kind of mindset, but I also you don't want it to linger over and drag your teammates down. You don't want that. So he's a guy to watch for sure. And like you said, Houston's just not a good team. They quite frankly, to be brutally honest, they don't really do anything at a high level. They don't pass well. They don't score well. They don't defend well. They don't rebound well. They don't really do anything well. There's a reason that they have the second worst record in the NBA and are going to be in the bid for Wembanyama in the draft. There's a reason for that. So obviously they're a young, tanking team. It's just part of the process sometimes. It happens. It's tough for Houston fans to see, I'm sure. And it's tough for those players, I'm sure, even more, and the coach as well. But, as a Knicks team who's fighting for a playoff spot, you don't have to hold any mercy for that. You need to just go all in and just, beat them. Beat the crap out of them, like you said. To have a beatdown, have a big blowout game. I can't expect a 40-point blowout. I just can't. The Rockets are still an NBA team. I can't expect that. But you need to get a good 20-point blowout. Even if you don't win by 20, at least win the game by double digits. Excuse me. Yeah, at least win the game by double digits. be in control of this game all the way through. Because like you said, we essentially control our own destiny at this point. We kind of control like where we're going to end up finishing based on how we perform these last 7 games or so. So yeah, that's my take on it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I 100% agree there. This team has to go out there again. And, again, I don't really mean to, like, disrespect Houston, but they're just not good, right? And when you're playing a not good team without really any elite level talent, you should not just beat them. You should pummel them into the ground. There's one guy, and I've hinted, I kind of mentioned him a little bit earlier with Quentin Grimes. Quietly over his last 12 games, he's shooting 44.9% from three on nearly 6 attempts. We've talked about the inconsistencies he's had defensively, but you'll take that if the shot making from three is there. Obviously you want him to figure out the defense, but when you're looking at a postseason rotation, or trying to again figure out what you're gonna do with your starters and your closing lineup or whatever, having Grimes that can be there, and he's not going to be in the closing lineup. It's going to be Josh Hart in his place, especially in a postseason situation. But having a guy like Grimes who, if you can have him get hot at the right time from three, that's going to be electric for this team. It spaces the floor more. We've seen RJ kind of go a little bit cold from three at times, but if you have Grimes and Brunson and Randall hitting their shots from three, you feel like you can get you can create more spacing and let RJ drive to the basket a little bit more. Obviously Mitchell Robinson has felt he hasn't been included as much in the offense. I think, adding some spacing sets up some more lob situations perhaps. But at the end of the day, I look at him and I say, obviously, you're only as good as Brunson and Randall are, right? I feel very strongly about, the fact that your two best players, your star players, they're the ones that determine how far you're going in a postseason environment. But, in games like these, we're talking the last 7 games of the year, trying to hold on to that 5th seed. Quentin Grimes staying hot from three is going to be huge. What do you think about that?
No, I definitely agree. And, these last 2 games specifically have been pretty encouraging. He scored 22 points the other night and then 25 against Orlando. I mean, he's had 2 very good games in a row. I mean, he's taking a lot of shots as well. He's starting to shoot the ball more. He's getting more involved in the offense, which is very encouraging because, lately he kind of would just, be kind of a corner sitter and a kind of corner sitter, or he'd get the ball and then, drive into the paint and get a dump off, which is cool for the offense, yes. But sometimes it felt like he was playing a little too fast, like as if the game was moving too quick for him, right? So, seeing him kind of getting a rhythm from, from outside, which is what we have him on the floor for, to shoot the ball, that's very great to see. The finishing and the passing is obviously a great touch, and, it's good to have that out of your shooting guard, right? But at the same time, we have him on the floor to shoot the ball. So when he's shooting the ball like he's been shooting of late, where he's actually taking shots and they're falling, that's a fantastic sign. Do I think it's sustainable? I can't answer that because, we've seen a couple times this year where he will do something like that and then he'll go right back to not really being involved in the offense. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself with that. Maybe tonight he has another big night and maybe I'll actually be like really thinking about like maybe he's actually found his rhythm now for once. But it's definitely encouraging, to say the least, that he is taking more shots, because I do want him to be more involved in the offense. I do think if he does get more, if he takes more shots, his 3-point jump shot is like really fast. His jump is fast and he just gets it off so quickly. It's pretty hard for a defender to even get a hand on it, right? So if he just keeps shooting the ball, with confidence and all that stuff, then our offense will be a lot better. I'm not saying Quentin Grimes is like the definition of if the offense is going to be good or not. No, but he definitely makes the offense deeper if he's shooting the ball the way he's shooting. We're not a good shooting team. Just flat out, we are not. Even though with Jalen Brunson shooting 41% from three and Julius Randle shooting like 35% from three, we are not a good shooting team. We rank toward the bottom in 3-point percentage as a team, right? And so if Quentin Grimes is taking more threes and taking shots with confidence and hitting them, that's a huge right there to make the offense so much more well-rounded. We'll have a good balance of, mid-range shooters like Brunson, for example, finishing like Randall and Barrett and Mitch, of course, and shooting with like Grimes and Quickly and Hart. Having a good balance like that, it's a good balance attack for an offense, and it's gonna be tough. It'll be tough for defenses to kind of try to pick like where to focus their defense on, if that makes sense. So I think Grimes will make a big difference. I'm hoping tonight he can have another big game. That'd be really nice to see. Do I think he will? I'm not gonna definitely say yes or no, because I don't know how involved in the offense he will be when Jalen Brunson comes back. I don't know if he'll go right back to, only taking like 3 shots a night or something like that. We'll just have to see. We'll have to find out the hard way. But I'm definitely encouraged by what he's been doing. As long as the defense, steps up, and as long as, he gets back to being a good defender like he usually is, then we're golden. So I'm not going to be too worried about that. I just hope, he continue this little stretch he's having is sustainable. That's what I'm hoping for. What do you think about that?
No, I 100% agree. Again, he's not the main piece of the offense, but he just adds to this offense. And this, as you mentioned, the spacing, right? This team is not a team that, relative to the rest of the league, is an elite shooting team. And Grimes gives you that element when he's red hot. But, I wanted to know your final thoughts here, so I'm going to go with the score prediction here. I'm going 124 for the Knicks and 108 for the Rockets. I think that's a pretty reasonable score. Not necessarily a blowout, but it's a dominant win, or it's they would be up. They wouldn't have to have their starters on the court for like the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game. What do you think?
Right, so my score prediction is going to be like 115 Knicks, 99 Rockets. I know it's a 16-point blowout, but I think this would be a chance for the Knicks to tighten up the defense, because the defense lately has been really struggling. I think with the 3 off days, and a couple practices here and there, they were able to kind of try to figure out, okay, we need to get back to being the defensive gauntlet we were just a few weeks ago. We need to get back to that, where teams were not able to shoot the ball well against us, and this is where you take advantage of that. Houston's not a good shooting team. You take advantage of that. You don't let Houston crack 100 points. We know that the Knicks are pretty capable of getting 100 points every night. We know that. They've done it pretty much almost every single night for the past 3 months at least, right? So I'm not worried about that. Don't let Houston get 100 points. It's not like if Houston gets 100 points, it'll dig us in the dirt, because we do score a lot, so we should still be fine. But if you can hold them under 100, it puts a statement like, okay, now our defense is back. It gives the team confidence, like, okay, our defense is good again. We just held them under 100 points, and I know it's the Rockets, and so it may feel like a bittersweet accomplishment, because it's like, oh yeah, you did great, but it's like, oh, but it's the Rockets. It's still an NBA team, and quite frankly, they've been losing to teams that are not good offenses, that are not good shooting teams. They've been giving up almost 120 points to these guys. The defense has just not been there. So simply even doing that, even if it is like one of the worst teams in the NBA, holding them to 100 points just makes the defense feel more confident. As a team, they're gonna be like, okay, I like what we did there. I love the defense we just played tonight. We need to play it like that the rest of the way. And obviously, if things change, you make adjustments. You make adjustments as you go. That's how the process of the NBA works. But that's what I think. If they can hold them to 100 points, that's a big thing. So that's my score prediction: 115 Knicks, 99 Rockets.
Yeah, interesting. We both actually went 16 points there for the Knicks win differential. So if the Knicks win by 16, I think we'll feel pretty good about that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys have been great with the support lately. You guys can check out our social media platforms. You can see our personal Twitter accounts above our heads. Check out the Fireside Knicks Twitter, Instagram, our TikTok, and of course our YouTube page. If you're listening to this in the audio podcast format, make sure to give us a 5-star rating. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications whenever we post. We've got you guys with highlights. We've got you guys with previews for games, and we're going to be talking a lot about the Knicks as they try to fight for this 5th seed. But again, thank you guys so much for checking us out, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.